Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lunch Tech and Chat. I've got my friend Will here. We're going to be talking about something really cool today. We were just having a bit of a discussion before this call, which is agents, robots, and stable coins. It's a really cool subject for us to talk about. What's the future? Will robots be able to use money, and what does that mean? Hello, Will. How are you doing?
Hey mate, how are you?
Good, good. How do you want to start this, Will? I know you had a conversation with your kids this morning that sparkled our idea for this podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. So this morning, I was in the car dropping my kids to school, and then, we started actually talking about the things that I do, right? Work with stablecoins and in one of the topics, kind of like I just said to the kids, so that is just launched a product, right, on a stablecoin. And the kids were like, what does that mean? And I said, like, oh, it means that creates money. And the kids were like, what? What are you talking about? And I said, like, yeah, I create money. I actually enable the creation of money. But does mom also creates money? I said, like, no, mom doesn't create money.
She makes money, not creates money.
She makes money, she earns money, she spends money, she does all that kind of stuff, but she doesn't actually create it. And it's like, oh fuck, this is so cool, Dad. What about robots? Do they also kind of create money or spend money? It's like, actually we are getting there. So it was, the whole conversation kind of evolved from there. And I just saw like the kids, like when kind of like we hugged each other and they took their way towards school, their eyes were just like sparkling, like, oh my God, like robots are going to be able actually to interact with humans and humans with robots. But just the fact that two 8-year-old kids, the first question was like, what, are you serious? The second question was, does mom also do that? And the third question was like, do robots do that? I said, like, in the priority of things, I was like, fuck, this is cool. The kids are ready, right? So this is how you know that you've got that generation that is already living in this world that we talk about all the time. It's future for us because we are aging and we are getting towards possibly the second half of our lives. But for them, this is the future that they are aspiring into. So for them, is that kind of like conceptualization is not abstract at all. It's actually they're looking forward to it.
Yeah,
And
because that's the adulthood, right? Like this is how they're gonna be living their lives in the very near future. And
yeah,
it's really interesting because on the question, can agents create money? Well, not yet, which doesn't mean that they couldn't, but they cannot really spend money. So, if you've got like an agent, they can even spend fiat money, which is real world money. Because, like you've got a agent, let's say that spin ups a VM and clicks through the screen and have the data of your credit card or something. And you say, go and buy me tickets for a trip to whatever. It can actually do that. Like you don't need to assist it, or the bot or the agent will just use your money the way that you told it to do. And if it goes a
correct.
little bit rogue, it might use your money for something else.
That's also a possibility. So, I mean, I don't know what's exactly the HTTP code. I forgot off the top of my head, but there's actually an HTTP, which is created for the internet protocol, that has been there for years by the World Wide Web Foundation, but it has never actually been used. I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head the one that I'm talking about, which is called like payment requested?
No.
This code has now been enabled, right, in recent years, like as part of like the HTTP protocol. And effectively what that enables is the creation the use of this part of the HTTP protocol that is payment requested, right? Which allows effectively for internet interactions where the expectation is that there's going to be some sort of like payment in the flow. So as you're saying, kind of like for fintechs and organizations that actually are already building like on top of that digital ecosystem, they can enable agents to do exactly what you're saying, kind of like
Yeah,
where you give an
but
agent
Will,
like a prompt and go forward and execute
it's
this.
even simpler than that. Like all the merchants, they've got APIs.
Mm.
If you just have an MCP to those APIs and you give the agent access to the MCP and the data of your, your blockchain transaction or your credit card or whatever, your bank details, it can already do it. Like technically it's possible. I don't know if I have seen any solutions doing that currently, but I don't see any technical limitations. And I'm just talking about technology here. I'm not talking about any other implications, but technically speaking, it's something really simple to be done.
Yeah. But what actually I would like to evolve even like that discussion. So one thing is like from a technical perspective, it's possible already to be done in, I guess, in Web2 ecosystems through fintechs, through APIs, SDKs, and the like, right? Building flows for that kind of stuff. What the additional step that we are creating in the ecosystems, it's which kind of like is particularly fitting for the use of digital assets like stablecoin is that we can now attribute immutability to something, effectively kind of like a ledger that cannot be changed, which could be changing actually in a Web 2 world. Like a ledger can have different operations and can be effectively changed by the entity underneath. But the other aspect of it is the attribution of reputation, right? And reputation drives trust, and trust drives more interaction between people. So currently there is a standard going through approvals within the Ethereum Foundation. This called the standard EIP 8004, which effectively allows for agents to be added as a attribute of reputation that is immutable on chain. So in reality, what that means is that, for example, Andre, you're very good at creating agents that automate other agents, right? So your agents are very good at doing that automation, and with very low fail rates when those agents are executing that work of creating automation. Now, Andre decides, because of that rare skill of being able to create highly accurate agents, that he wants to transform that skill into a product, right? That now, instead of Andre being there, like creating each one of those agents, deploy instances of agents, and those agents create that automation workflow for others. Now Andre can get paid for it. Not only Andre can get paid for it, which is the thing that he could already do through fintech, but the agent that Andre has created and optimized can be associated with an immutable reputation of the quality of that agent, right? Which has a score effectively of that reputation that is stored on chain and cannot change. So if Andre's agent all of a sudden they start misbehaving, creating less quality of their work, the reputation score of Andre's agents, not Andre, but Andre's agents, starts reducing. Or on the other way around, they start actually increasing, and therefore the agents that Andre has created can charge more money because they have a higher reputation relative to other agents that do similar tasks in the market.
I think the value that blockchain adds to the process is sort of the auditability of unmutatable data that is in the chain. So if like you're saying on the score or something like that, it doesn't matter what you do until you regain the confidentiality, the data is not going to change in the blockchain because the blockchain can't be altered. But any of that stuff, you could do it currently, right? Like you could just have a database that is taking the score like any other website do, and you have your agent there, and before you use the agent, you have an API connection for a money transaction that needs to happen. But of course, once you have in the chain, it can be even more automated. Like maybe if you want to use my agent, you start a smart contract that says these are the rules of the agent, this is how much you pay per transaction or whatever. And once you sign the smart contract, that will connect to your wallet and charge as the agent's working. So now you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
an actual virtual person making money for the work that they're doing that is going to a real human in the background, which is
100%. Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You don't need the blockchain for that, but the blockchain adds value in the process.
It adds significant value because the value in a world where you have potentially billions of agents created, the reputational value of the quality of the agent that you can build versus the quality of the agent that, say, a 10-year-old kid somewhere in a garage actually can build.
They might be good though.
They might be good. They might be good. Some of the kids actually might be very good. But someone actually that does exactly the same thing that you do, a kind of like an expert that actually the agent can utilize that expert capacity to charge the same thing. I agree with you that a reputation could be stored on a database, but the same thing is that database, as any database can be done, can be edited. In this
Mhm.
case here, no, the reputation cannot be edited. The reputation is immutable and it carries out for the life of that agent. So if the reputation decreases for that agent, either Andre will have to deploy another agent and spend all the time regaining that reputation, or potentially the agents that Andre has created are no longer of
There is a risk there
attributable
as well,
valuable.
Will. There is
Mm.
a risk. So let's say I've built an agent, my agent like is the top chart, and now you released your agent, and your agent's better than mine, and it's taking place over my agent, and now all my customers are starting to migrate to you, right? I could build an agent that will be using your agent automatically and giving bad feedback. And I can do billions of runs in a day and really damage your agent. And because that is in the blockchain, you screwed, right?
Well, but then you can use economics to prevent that from happening. If if you create like a system that you make punishable bad actors to try to damage the reputation of others without having any economic relationship between them. So, for example, all that the say the hacker agent would be doing is to trying to attribute bad reputation to someone, but has never engaged into an economic activity, saying, for example, asked for some work to be done, task to be done by that agent, then you could effectively create kind of like a spam scenario where someone actually needs to stake actually real money before engaging into an economic activity with
So
another
you have
agent.
the logic in the smart contract before execution, which is
Exactly.
good. But depending of how much money that's worth, you could actually do transactions just to damage your competitors, right? Because you're writing all the feedback in stone, pretty much.
You could, but as reputation and as tasks and as agents actually start increasing in reputation, the cost of that transaction will increase as well.
That
So
is true.
similar to the way that, for example, like a Bitcoin
What you're saying is
network.
that demand versus how do you say, the demand versus
the difficulty adjustment of doing it will be more and more costly as agents actually gain reputation. So you
the more demand and the more reputation, the more expensive it becomes. Does
exactly
does it has in your mind, is that like a token related to it? So when you run the smart contract, you get like a temporary token or whatever, and that has a cost, and that cost is dynamic based on demand and reputation. Is that sort of what you have in
absolutely,
mind?
and that can be completely be designed. So that effectively would mean that as someone or some agent becomes more reputable, starts earning, accumulating more revenue and increasing its reputation, it almost becomes a little bit like Bitcoin's proof of work, which is kind of like as more people use the chain, there's more hash power actually built on the chain. It becomes more costly for you to try to reverse the chain blocks, right? Because you have to spend effectively a lot of money for reorganization of the chain blocks in double spend. And in this case here, the agent, as it starts actually gaining more reputation and actually effectively accumulating more money through its action and charging more for the tasks because there's no agent that is as performing as that agent that you've deployed, the cost of actually trying to damage your reputation through those kind of like some microtransactions is going to become more costly. So eventually kind of like people that bad actors will have to spend a lot just to damage your reputation, and that
Yeah.
damage might not be that all that high.
It has to be really worth it for you to do that.
Exactly. But anyways, by the time that actually an agent actually arrives, and they actually becomes a target for bad actors, which is the thing. So say like, let's say an agent that actually has accumulated $1 billion, like has become almost like a corporate and is now charging for each of its activity like $1 million. It's not every single little hacker that will have $1 million to stake for a task to actually attribute to that agent. We have
So
to have
when
a
that's
pretty
available in the
big.
blockchain, let me know. I'll build some agents there.
The frameworks actually are going through approval right now. So there's a few of them actually, agentic frameworks. This is one of them, which associates
Is that in
reputation
the
plus
Ethereum
payment.
blockchain?
And it's going to be across the VM ecosystem.
So the other thing that I'm thinking is, so let's say you've got an agent now that people are paying to use. That agent's generating money and storing in a wallet, right? Let's say it can be stablecoin, can be Ethereum, can be anything. Now, if that agent has a wallet and that wallet has tokens, the agent can use that as collateral to create its own money. So we're not far away of agents actually being able to create money. If you give a wallet for an agent that contains something that can be used as collateral, an agent can technically create its own money. So answering your kid's question, can a robot create money? It is technically possible.
It is technically possible. It is technically possible that actually the robot actually creates money. And there's some interesting things is that like the robot not only can create money, a robot can create money that it understands very well. And I'll use an example. One of the latest use cases over the last, year more or less, that started kind of like coming up. And there are now some projects that actually are live around that, by the way. Can send the show notes for people actually to look into it. A stablecoin that where the backing of collateral. So just for those that actually don't know, so a stablecoin is backed to a reference value. So here, most of it is like the US dollar, right? And all stablecoins have, or most of it, they have like like a set of collateral that they use to back its issuance. For the ones that actually people know, like Circle, Tether, etc., it's mostly fiat currency or money market fund securities. I'll pass on the detail what those mean, but the robots now, they actually create, like some projects actually are creating stable coins where the backing of it is the cash flow generated by GPUs that go into training AI models.
That's nuts.
So that means that from a robot perspective, there is nothing else that it knows better than the infrastructure on which it runs. So if there is cash flow that is being generated to all of this H100 GPU machines and that actually are being used for training, like from NVIDIA and others, that are used to train the robots, and they know exactly the cash flow that is being generated from the computation of the training of those models, there's nothing that we will know any better than actually know the infrastructure on which the robots are built in the first place. There are some
But
projects
then,
actually are really quite big actually on that space. They are $100 million plus of issuance of actually stablecoins.
then let's think. Okay, so you're generating a cash flow from the GPUs. You've got an agent that understands the cash flow, and then on the cash flow is probably predicting what's going to happen and generating coins in advance or whatever makes sense. But how is it actually making money?
So it's effectively so the cash, so there's the core, there's the collateral, which is like the machine. So like the GPU itself,
No,
like the bare
I'm
bones
fine with
machine.
that. I mean, the from the stable coin that got generated, how is the agent actually making money? So it's using the revenue as collateral to generate a stable coin, but why is it important? What are they gaining with that stable coin? How are
Well,
they making money out of that?
so they're making money through the interests of the cash flow accumulated out of running the models themselves. Every time that a model is being trained on, it's actually going and using, the bare bones machine. It's being paid in effectively kind of like in fiat or other forms of money for that computation. And the robot effectively can know how much that cash flow is generated right now, has been generated in the past. So effectively that is the equivalent of an interest rate, right? It's how much the yield is accumulating from that activity, plus a forecasting based on historical data of future cash flows. So how much that interest rate will evolve over time. Is there more computation coming to that GPU or the set of GPU clusters right now or in the past month relative to the past 12 months? And therefore, how much interest rate actually can it earn in the future
Okay,
based on
so
the
let me
historical
try to
data?
break down to make sure that I understood. So let's say NVIDIA's GPUs generating cash flow. You're taking that cash flow, you're creating a stable coin. That stable coin is the money that will be used as the money to pay things or to do things on day to day. And the actual collateral here, you're putting that in a bank on an investment that's generating yield and any more money out of the money. So the actual fiat is growing while you're not touching this money because you're using the stable coin as your money for financial transactions.
Both,
So
it can
that
be
money
both.
will keep
It can,
growing while this money is circulating. Is that sort of
yep.
right?
Yep. So as the cash flows are generated here, the robot can issue more stable coins in the market, but also can burn as the reduction of cash flow actually kind of like happens over time, right? So it can algorithmically adjust to the sort of activity that is happening right now or forecasting into the future.
So I'll tell you where my mind is going, right? So imagine you are a company. You are Will Limited. Will Limited, you've got a bunch of GPUs, you've got a data center somewhere, and then you're generating a cash flow, profits, whatever from the GPU usage. And you're going to say, actually, I'm not going to use this money. And I'm not going to use this money to borrow money because I'm going to pay interest on the money that I'm borrowing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as collateral to create another money. And the money that I create is the money that I'm going to use. So while I still have the same buying power, my actual physical money is generating interest. So I'm growing my money by using my money in the blockchain. Is that right?
100%.
That's crazy,
It,
man.
and you could even go beyond that. you could say the same way that, for example, when you use your credit card with your users, you want to give them some attention
Incentives.
retention incentives. So actually they come and they use your credit card again. You could use the requests for your computation for the bare bone collateral that you have. So actually every time that they consume and they use your stable coin to consume the computation, you give some of that interest back to them.
Yeah, because you're making money, so you're just giving
You're
a
making
part of
money.
your share
So
back to the user.
and then you make them actually stick with you.
Wow, man. This is crazy. I never thought about this.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Not in this way.
It's really fucking cool. Actually, there's a few projects I've looked into. I almost actually got involved into building one of those about 18 months ago. We were already starting to do some of like the financial calculations and all that kind of stuff and design the flywheel. But now there is a few actual projects that I haven't launched since then.
Okay, so I have another question, right? So let's say nothing about compute or GPUs or anything. Let's say is gonna release a stable coin in the market. So you created the Will Trump coin because Donald Trump loves creating coins. So you created the Will Trump coin. Okay, so let's say you've got $1 million. You put $1 million somewhere for collateral, the bank or somewhere that you can use as collateral, and now you created your $1 million in your stable coin.
Mm-hmm.
So if you release your stable coin in the blockchain, so let's say you put it in a wallet in Ethereum, and now you want people to start buying that, right? So when they are buying your token, they are giving you something in exchange. So I'm going to buy the Will coin and I'm going to give Ethereum. So it costs, I don't know, 0.2 Ethereum for one Will coin. So I give you 0.2 Ethereum and I buy your Will coin. So that means that the dollar that transacted from you to me, you still have that in real money in fiat. And now you've got that real money plus the 0.2 Ethereum that I gave you. Until I cash out that money into real money, you're not losing any money from your fiat collateral, right?
Correct. Yeah, but then if you have additional, I guess, incentives, let's say that the Will coin, the Will coin operates like the computation coin, and you want to give the people other avenues.
The more you hold the coin, the more interest you get because you are getting interest from the bank, for example.
Exactly. So you could actually effectively create kind of like a staking contract, which effectively kind of like locks that coin somewhere in some staking contract on the blockchain. And
because you want the coin to stay in the blockchain.
On chain.
You don't want it to get out of the chain.
No, exactly. So the coin stays on chain. So it's actually that Will coin stakes on a staking contract. And because that staking contract shows effectively user conviction with your Will coin, let's say like that, that means that then Will say, okay, cool. Actually, that shows actually conviction into this is actually the way that people want to utilize their money. So Will then kind of like that activates a payment out of that cash flow that is being generated on the GPU to be sent onto that staking contract.
So if you have a coin, the rule of that coin is it can never get out of the chain. On-chain coin, you can't cash it out. You can buy all the coins or the tokens or the crypto, whatever. You can buy things on chain, but it can never leave the chain. If this was possible, you would be pretty much doubling up your money when you release your coin in the blockchain.
Over time, yeah.
Not over time.
No, I mean,
I take my collateral. I take my collateral.
Yeah.
I take my collateral. I create tokens. I've got a stable coin here. And now from that stable coin, instead of giving people the opportunity to buy, I start spending it. Like imagine like the central bank generated money gave to people to start spending. So you are the central bank and you are the spender. But the rule of that token is it can never leave the chain. If it can never leave the chain, it's never gonna touch your collateral. So essentially, on day one, you doubled up your money.
You didn't double up in the sense that that collateral that is set on the side
Well,
is
it's
not
locked,
something
but
that
it's
you
yours.
exactly you cannot use it, and the money that is circulating on the chain is not yours itself. It's effectively it's a liability on you.
No, but in reality, you've got your money growing plus your money to use it again. So you did double up your money.
Again, over time, you didn't double up the money because
Well, it's
it's
the
not.
same as I say, I'm going to buy shares, and every cent that I put in my shares, I'm going to have available in my bank account for me to use it. For me,
Yes,
it's essentially doubling up your money.
you're again you're not doing, because if it's all that you can do is trade with yourself and you don't have any other counterparty.
No, you're not
That's
trading with yourself. If it's available in the blockchain and it has liquidity, you're using to buy other coins and exchange, and people are using your coins to buy other coins, but it can never leave the chain.
but it's moving from your ownership to some other party ownership,
Yeah, it
because
doesn't matter.
if
But you used it first, so you spinned it.
yeah, but the thing that is off chain, you're not doing the same thing. And if
No,
people are
that
doing
money is
that
stopped.
thing, that money
That money is
stops.
stopped, but it's growing.
It's effectively similar to a lock contract. That contract is locked. So imagine like a cross chain kind of like communication, where to issue something on one chain, you have to burn or lock something in the origination chain.
Yeah. So the
That's
money is
equivalent
locked.
of that. The
The
money
money
is
is
locked.
locked. Is in the bank. Is generating interest. So you can't take that money out. It's like I bought shares that I'm not allowed to sell
Correct.
because I'm not allowed to sell, but any interest that it makes is mine.
No,
But then I say,
that's the thing, because the interest that generates. Again, I'm using more the parallel of the kind of like a fiat pegged stable coin, like a Circle or etc. The money that is here set, and this is the legal construct, it's held on trust. The fact that it's held on trust, and this is trust law, the trustee is holding on the money for the benefit of someone. It's not
yeah,
his to use. He is just effectively a trustee of the money, stayed with that money, right? But he is not the beneficial owner of that money.
yeah, but it doesn't. So if the money that is locked is generating interests, what happens with the interest?
Well, the interest is what the trustee charges for doing that service for the market. And the trustee might distribute that interest back to its rightful holders
Yeah,
of
I
the
know,
stable.
but
Yeah,
you got what I'm saying, right? Like
yeah,
you're the trust, you're the central bank, you're the initial user of the created money, you circulating the money with buying power, and any interest that are being generated because you're the owner of the trust, that money is essentially you can withdraw that money for yourself because
it's
it's
a
a
it, it's a bearer trust. That means that actually the trust is set up for the actual um, um, owner of the money. It's not property of the trustee.
yeah, I know. What I'm saying is, so if you have 100 will coins, and now those 100 will coins are with me, what you're saying is the $100 that is in the bank, it's mine because I've got the coin. So my
Exactly.
coin is locked on that value. What I'm saying is that $100 is generating interest,
Hmm.
and those interests aren't coming to me. They're
No,
going to you because you're the trustee of that money. So
Correct.
it's essentially you're creating money with collateral. That money is getting locked and you can't touch that money anymore, but it
Yeah.
will generate interest and you can touch the interest. And you could touch the initial money if you wanted when it got created in your wallet. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
But the trustee or the trust deed can also set up so that the trustee will take all of that interest generated and get back to the users. And that's is what goes back in that the original use case our conversation started is where, for example, a GPU owner take that the trust that kind of like holds on the GPU and the cash flows generated by the GPU. The cash flow, which represents here interest rates of the money generated through that, can be given back to users.
If they want
All
to.
of if they want to, if it's set up
Yeah.
in the trust deed, because whatever is actually set in the trust deed of that relationship, it's what the trustee has to execute.
Because if you
Is
take like
legally
things
bound by
like
it.
USDT, right? You
Yeah,
just use it as US dollar. I don't get anything else by using it. It's just a coin that I'll circulate it and I'll use it. So if they are generating interest on the money that I hold, they own the interest. Like it's not coming back to me. So whatever they set it up as part of their trustee, that's what's happening. And that's what I
correct.
mean. Like it's a potential of creating money for circulation when you keeping the initial collateral to generate interest on top. So it's a very smart way of circulating money in an incentivized way that you
Mhm.
can use it for your benefit or you can use it to grow your base of users and the main collateral, because if you have more people using, you're going to have to grow the collateral and that money will just keep growing, right? So it's really interesting concept.
Yeah, the basis of it, but why are people using, say, USDT or USDC in the market? The reason for that is a different
Liquidity.
one. It's
Yeah.
completely different. It's the reason is liquidity. I mean,
Yeah, of course. Because if I want to withdraw that money, I know that I'm going to be able to get it.
or if you want to use the money, it's bigger than actually that. It's actually
Yeah.
the primary reason is not the liquidity because of withdrawing, because actually withdrawals they're not even that frequent from some of these bigger players, right? Like I mean, you see frequently, for example, Tether minting $10 billion in a month, right? It's not infrequent to see that happening. It's much rarer to see Tether burning $1 billion in a month. Much rarer to do
So
any of them.
collateral just keeps growing, and the more it grows, the more will people use it, and
And the
then the
more
more
there's
will be.
liquidity, and the more there's liquidity in the market, and the more liquidity finds uses for it through, for example, hedge funds and traders. Actually, the primary users of some of these high liquid ones is not mom and dad, Andre, Will. It's hedge funds and people that actually really need that liquidity while they're operating in the market. Leverage trading, creating derivatives and the like. That's what that's used for. People keep mistaking that stablecoins are used for payments for moms and pops and stuff. They are completely missing the point.
That's really cool. That's
Yeah.
and why I do need to go in 3 minutes, but I'll
Yeah.
ask you a final question. Why would one of those big companies use a stable coin instead of US dollars?
If you can settle 24/7 in 5-second blocks, why would you get your counterparty locked over weekends and taking batch transactions while in the meantime, especially in stress test situations, actually the custodian of your money might actually go belly up? Why would you do that for your money?
So you would say that the two things is money has no boundaries. It can just circulate anywhere in the world. So even if you say, "Oh, I live in this country," it's an easy transaction 24/7. Doesn't matter. It's not cross territory or so one thing is being cross territory, and the other thing is you're not relying on another entity to own your money because your money is just in the blockchain. So you don't have other people using your money to make more money or getting to a risk of actually going bankrupt and losing your whole money, right?
Because a lot of the time people actually don't even know who are the counterparties, who are the custodians of the money when they are settling transactions between each other. When actually when for example, like you're using bank A and we are in a business transaction, let's say, right? You're using bank A, I'm using bank B, right? Both of our banks assume that the money that you have has the same amount of credit risk as the money that I have. We both know that that's not true, because you might actually be using a bank account that is actually a triple A rated bank. I might be using actually a bank account that is actually a single B rated. Triple A is top of the cream. Single B is essentially junk rated. From me and from you, we think that we are using the same dollars, but actually we are not. Your dollar is much more useful and much less risky than my dollars, right? So if I have the majority of the money in my custodian in our business transaction, and my custodian takes a day to settle, you are taking that counterparty risk of my custodian going belly up.
Yeah.
Whereas
So
actually, yeah,
let me,
anyways.
I do need to go, but I just want to ask you one last question. What's the risk of you using a stable coin and then the collateral disappears and your money just disappears?
That's where people actually need to read the legal contracts, right? The trust, like I'm talking mostly about trust law that is common in English speaking countries, but the trust law on which this is based, if there is misuse of that, the trustee can get to prison. So it's a pretty high stake for fucking it up, right? So getting
Okay,
jail
but there
time,
is a risk.
there is risk. There is of course risk. There is risk even that the custody bank, if that money is held in a bank, the custody bank that is used by the trustee is not a trustworthy one. Is one of those single B ones, right? Instead of being a triple A. Again, the money is not going to be the same, but so is not the fiat money that you're being issued through credit through the bank. So it's the same risk.
So the best scenario is use like something like Bitcoin that is coin native as collateral. That's the safest. Will, I do need to
In
go.
blockchain world, yeah.
I would love
Anyways,
to carry on this conversation, but I do need to go.
yeah, sounds good, mate.
Thank you very much. For anyone that has stayed all the way to the end, what should they put in the comments?
Are all private forms of money equal? If you can answer that question, if you can answer
Thank you
that
very
question,
much.
is your
Thank you very
dollar
much,
and my
Will.
dollar the same? Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening to us, and we'll see you next week. See ya.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye bye.